This is the oldest computer in the world. It was invented 2,000 years ago, but how did they make a computer without electricity? Well, that's what we're going to find out today. This is the Antikythera Mechanism. It was discovered in 1902 in a shipwreck off the Greek island of Antikythera. It was created around 200 BC during the reign of the famous Archimedes. And it was created by the greatest scientists and engineers of the time. It took them 5 years to build this device because it has incredibly precise engineering. So what is it? It's actually a complicated clock with gears inside of it. But when archaeologists found this, they didn't understand what it was. They thought it was just a bunch of broken pieces. It wasn't until later that they realized it was a finely engineered device. And in 1951, a scientist named Derek J. DeSala Price figured out what this device actually was. It's a calendar computer. You can use it to tell the date of any day in the year, not just a day in the year. But you could also use it to calculate the phases of the moon and the position of the planets. This is amazing because this is stuff that we usually associate with computers. And this was built 2,000 years ago. But how does it work? It works by having these really thin slices of metal with some transparent material over them. These are called dials, and you can see through them to read the calendar. There are also other dials here for things like the phases of the moon. To set the date, you would turn this large dial here. This is the main gear. Turning this gear would then turn smaller gears inside, and they would move these dials to show the date. So to set it to today, which is November 22nd, you would turn this dial to November. And then you would have to look at this other dial here, which is the day dial. This dial is backwards, so that the days will match up with the months. So you would turn this until the 22nd lines up with the month of November. But there's an even crazier part of this. These dials are amazingly precise. This thing is about 3 inches in diameter. And if you look closely, you can see these tiny little notches. Each one of these notches represents a day, and these days are calculated precisely based on the solar year. In fact, these calculations were so precise that they're more accurate than some modern calendars. For example, we have a Julian calendar today. This is the calendar that most of the world uses. But the Antikythera Mechanism is based on the solar calendar. The solar calendar is more accurate because it takes into account the actual time it takes for the Earth to revolve around the Sun, whereas the Julian calendar doesn't. And that's why the Antikythera Mechanism is more accurate than the Julian calendar. But it gets even better because this device isn't just a calendar. It's also a planetarium. These 2 dials here show the positions of the planets. These positions are calculated accurately within a few hours of the actual position of the planets. Now, obviously this doesn't show the actual planets. Instead, it shows where the planets would be if they were lined up perfectly in a row. But still, that's insanely accurate for something that's 2,000 years old. But there's even more to this. There are all these other dials and pointers here. This pointer here points to the sunrise and sunset. That's another thing that you can calculate with this. And there are a bunch of other pointers and dials here that we don't fully understand yet. So it's possible that this device can calculate even more things than we realize. And there's a lot more to know about this device. For example, we don't know exactly how it was powered. We think it was wound up by a key or crank. We also don't know how they made such precise calculations. They knew that the Earth was a sphere, and they had pretty accurate measurements of the Earth's circumference. They also knew that the Earth revolved on its axis. And they knew that the Sun revolved around the Earth. But they didn't know that the Earth revolved around the Sun. But even with that limitation, they made some amazing calculations and discoveries. The person who discovered this was Derek DeSala Price. He noticed that the Antikythera Mechanism was amazingly advanced for its time. He said that the technology of the Antikythera Mechanism was about 1,000 years ahead of its time. It inspired him to continue researching this, and he ended up becoming a pioneer in the field of computer science. As I was researching this, I was amazed by how advanced this civilization was. They had zero electricity, but they made very advanced devices like this. And they also had roads, aqueducts, stadiums, and other advanced infrastructure. Greece was a great place to live back then, but what happened to it? Why did their technology disappear? Well, a big reason was that their empire was constantly at war. They were always fighting with each other and other empires. This caused their technology to fall behind because they spent all of their time and resources on war instead of innovation. But it's still amazing what they were able to accomplish despite all of the setbacks. If you like optimistic science and tech stories, stay tuned for more.